will have, it's sort of like a handout guide that we have to doing this session. I'll basically walk through the guide and give in some extra other things, tips about library research. All right, so in the chat, I just posted a link to a Word doc. This is for reference later on if you just want to look for some quick tips about researching the library for this assignment. And I'll be sharing that on my screen in a second. Actually, so first what we'll do is, if you already opened it up, you'll see it starts off with a video. We're gonna start off with that video, and I'll give you guys all the link for that also, in case you wanna put it off the side and watch it on your own time. It's also in the handout. And this video is going to go over cultural competence, and that's sort of what this assignment and library session is about. We're going to show you, introduce you to this new topic of cultural competence and show you how to do some research on it real quick to first understand what it means, and also to learn how you can get a new concept and do research on it right away. If you guys have questions, definitely shoot me a message in the chat. I also put my info in that Word doc. So if you guys have questions later on, send me an email. I'll go over library remote services in a second too. We'll start the video now. If you don't hear the sounds, please let me know.
Yeah, there's no sound, so
Oh, okay.
That's fine.
Oh, this one should work.
Healthcare organizations, JCAHO,
Right, how about now?
require that all healthcare facilities practice culturally competent care. Meeting this mandate appears daunting, as ethnic groups once relatively isolated within national borders now actively move around the planet, and we have reached unprecedented levels of cultural diversity. As populations in many countries become increasingly diverse, so does the difficulty in learning the specifics regarding culturally related behavior. Achieving cultural competency requires that we have an understanding of the major components of human culture, that we understand our own biases, and that we are knowledgeable regarding the customs and expectations of those cultures we commonly encounter.
The purpose of this series is to provide tools to enable you to meet these goals. We'll discuss some specifics from various cultures, and we'll show how just by listening and observing, you can interact with your clients in a productive, effective, and culturally sensitive manner.
Traditionally, culture is viewed as being related to race, religion, language, and country of origin.
However, cultures contain many divergent groups called subcultures, which directly affect how people think, act, and view others.
These subcultures include occupation, economic or social class, age group, and political affiliations.
People also find themselves grouped because of the presence of physical disabilities, deformities, developmental delays, or physical or mental illnesses.
Sometimes it's easier to see our differences,
rather than see what makes us alike.
This woman is 30 years old and unmarried. She is Vietnamese, born in Saigon. This man is 45 years old, married with grown children. He is African American and was born in Los Angeles. It is hard to imagine that these two individuals have any common ground. However, they are both physicians who work in a major medical center.
Alec.
How are you? I didn't know you were here today. I'm just checking out one of the patients.
They share an enormous amount of knowledge and experience. This woman is in her mid-30s and paraplegic from a spinal defect. She has had multiple surgeries. Though intellectually normal, frequent hospitalizations have interrupted her attempts to complete training programs and left her dependent on public assistance. She is politically active on behalf of those with physical and cognitive disabilities. This woman is 46 years of age and in excellent health. She has a master's degree, is a successful real estate broker, and is politically indifferent. These two women appear to be poles apart, with no common ground until you realize they are both single mothers. But the real question is, how do our individual attributes and experiences impact our ability to live and work together?
Increasing cultural diversity makes effective communication more challenging. In healthcare, the difficulty is increased because we see people at their most vulnerable.
People of all ethnicities, ideologies, and economic levels come to us because they're sick or injured. They're frequently frightened and may also be in pain.
When a patient has a cultural orientation that's different than our own, we may find that techniques we normally employ during interactions are less effective or simply don't work.
All human beings have beliefs and biases based on both cultural heritage and life experiences. These can become filters through which others are viewed.
Acceptance of this is the first step in learning to work effectively in a multicultural environment.
For the healthcare worker, this is particularly important. Every day, we are called upon to assess and work with people from diverse political, religious, and social beliefs, as well as ethnic and economic backgrounds. Their only true commonality is they need health care.
Okay. Yeah, so that was a video. It sort of explains cultural competence just in a roundabout way. Like us being like living in New York City and like everyone being at LaGuardia, I'm sure you've experienced all this already firsthand. But the point of cultural competence is that in the workplace, usually takes on like a different sort of characteristic. And what we'll be doing today is researching cultural competence and seeing how it relates to your guys' specific fields. So some of you guys might be doing nursing, other people might be doing physical therapy, you might have elder care, things like that. And just keeping in mind, like, this is the route I want to go. And these are like some of the things that might happen. Like, each role is going to have different ways to handle cultural competence in other roles, even with vet tech and things like that. Yeah, so what I'll do now is I'll switch over to the Word doc that I have, and we'll start going over the assignment and how to do research. So today what we're going to go over is finding peer-reviewed articles in the library database on cultural competence in your career field. And we're going to go over APA citations. And for your assignment, this first part here are the things you're going to need to look for in the articles and what to do to finish it, to put it up onto ePortfolio. If you have questions about the research part of this, send me an email and I can help you out later. Basically, what we normally do in an ordinary semester is just basically say, come into the library if you have any questions. We have a reference desk to answer those questions, but this semester, obviously things are a bit different. So we're going to talk about the other library services that we're sort of doing to compensate for that, and then also different ways for background research. So for cultural competence, we just watched the video on it. It just sort of gives you an overview for it. Maybe some of you like to read instead. And if you've been doing your own research for classes and things, you've probably already used Wikipedia. We have a link here for the Wikipedia site on cultural competence in healthcare. And open that up for a second. So you might be thinking like, hey, why is this librarian showing us a Wikipedia page? Wikipedia is a good source for background information. They're good at introducing topics. Maybe you just need a short article just to get an understanding of what's happening. What you shouldn't use Wikipedia for is citations and papers. Professors won't accept it, and it's just generally not seen as academic information. At the library, we have a lot of resources available that are considered academic sources and scholarly sources. These are types of resources that are collected into databases, and you need to subscribe to them. And usually I'll go over the details of that in a little bit too, but they're just held to a higher standard than Wikipedia articles. But to switch over to Wikipedia page. All right. You'll see that it starts off pretty simply, and they do cover, we'll use this page to sort of build our searches off of a little bit. When you're doing research, it's always good to keep in mind that research is just looking for different combinations of words to get to a topic that you're trying to look at. And when you look at this here, what we'll do is do this on your own, maybe like take out a piece of paper, or if you're gonna do it after this session, do it on your own. Listen to the video and take a look at the Wikipedia page and jot down some different topics that you think are interesting. In the Wikipedia page, you'll see that they highlighted a lot of the words. Some of the databases do the same thing too. And they cover the big issues such as like race, gender, ethnic background, different fields of health. And these are things to keep in mind when you're doing it, researching articles. When you're just researching an article, you never just want to research like cultural competence in healthcare. It's going to be a very broad topic. You want to look at like, how does race play in cultural competence? What does gender have an effect on that? Then how does that gender have an effect with cultural competence in my field? So we have some examples listed out in the handout. But to do your own thing, I would definitely suggest looking at the Wikipedia page and the video and just like take out some different points from there. So for the assignment, you want to like narrow down a specific topic. Maybe some of you, has anyone had any professors say that their topic's too broad or anything before? Do the little hand raise thing.
Yeah.
Or yeah, just unmute yourself. So you might be understanding like, what does that mean by broad? It means that you're just trying to cover like too many things at once. It's these topics, if you're talking about race, it's just like a huge topic that no one's ever really going to write a paper about. But if you look at some very specific things, you can get a good paper out of it or research topic. That's done by narrowing your topic. If you think of research as like a big funnel, it's that you start off with a very broad topic, and then you add in different topics or subjects to there to get a narrow topic. So here an example, we start off with cultural competency. The person or example, they're a nursing student. They want to look at home health care, a specific part of nursing. And then related to cultural competence, again, they're looking at language barriers. That as like, okay, different languages is going to be people from different cultural backgrounds. And I'm interested in looking specifically at like how this affects like Latino population. So it might sound really complicated, but think of it that especially in this class, half of this work is already done. We already assigned you cultural competence. You already have an idea about what you want to specialize in, and that's like these 2 parts for it. So all you have to do is pick what part of cultural competence you want to look into. And I'll show you how to put in the words into your search that will let you do those things too. To go back up, again, we did that narrowing down by collecting keywords. And that's what I was suggesting to do with the Wikipedia page and also in the videos, just jot down some words. If I was in class, I would be like, draw a diagram on the board just to show you guys like how I would do it. But there are different ways to do it. Just a list of words is usually pretty good too. So for that, we were going to switch over to the library website. Share full screen. So this is the library website. Some of you may have used it before. Otherwise, this might be a new thing to you right now. This is the place where we let people do searches, and it shows, it's also a spot where if you are trying to get academic articles, you get to it too, or just ask us questions in general. Right now, during the semester, during the remote semester, we have a help from home section, and that covers some links about what to do if you borrowed some books. We start you off with a reference chat option over here. Normally you can walk into the library and we'll answer your questions, or you could email me and we'll answer your questions. But if you need something answered more immediately, send us a message in chat. That's usually staffed between, I think, 7 or 8 a.m. until 9 p.m. Weekdays. And we're also have hours on the weekends too. Here are the hours. We have the hours on the page there too. So if you have any questions, then they might need, like, I need help finding an article, even if it's about this topic. Maybe you need help with citation, maybe need help finding a textbook. Those are all things we can do that for you. If you have questions even about certain campus services and you're not sure where to find them or like who to send an email to, we can help you out with that also. We have a thing about borrowed library materials. So if you borrowed anything earlier in the semester, don't worry about it. There are no fines this year, school year at least. We have links for free textbooks. Some of them the subscriptions are running out now, but if you need any books, especially if they're textbooks, get in touch with us and we'll make sure you get them if these links don't work. We have some extra online library materials where we highlight some parts of the collection. And we also have Contact the Librarian. Maybe you're trying to contact somebody else. Maybe you just lost the sheet and you're like, oh yeah, there's this guy, Thomas, I don't know what his name was. You can find us usually over here too. And this is just contact information of all the librarians. On the library website, we also have a student section. This is more useful when we're in session. It covers different things that we loan out, and also have the Ask a Librarian section on its own. You can see that here on the right, and just different info on it. What you'll mostly be doing is working in this middle section here, the one that starts with OneSearch and has articles, databases, journal title search, and citation help. OneSearch, this is sort of like our version of Google. When you do a Google search, I'm sure you've all done it, is that when you do a search, you get millions of results back. What you're doing there is searching the public web. What OneSearch is searching all of our databases and book collections. So instead of getting websites back, you're going to get books, you're going to get journal articles and encyclopedia articles. It's good if you are looking for books specifically, or you have a really like intense topic. But for most searches, you're not going to want to use one search because it'll bring you too many search results back. What we're going to need to do for, especially for the health sciences, is that you're going to need to pick a specific database and do your searches in there. If you click on articles and databases, we have broken down the articles and databases that cover articles a bit differently. We have a quick link section of the more popular resources. In here too, we have subscription to the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. They're free. So if you guys want to sign up for them, they're free to students, staff, faculty, people at LaGuardia. They're good value. It's up-to-date news. And we try to offer 2 different viewpoints too. Academic Search Complete, that is a good database for humanities. So outside of this class, if you have like an English class or a sociology class, that's definitely the database to use. Opposing Viewpoints and Gale eBooks are also good for encyclopedia articles and sort of background information on different topics too. So you might be wondering still, well, where's the healthcare databases? For that, we've broken down the databases we subscribe to in the subject section. And we have different databases for each of the programs at LaGuardia. Why we broke these down, and we have a health and nursing one over here. So I'll click on that. We broke it down into these lists because these database companies, they want to specialize in different topics. They see the power in having like a very specialized database because they know if you are a researcher in that field, you're not going to want to do a Google search to try to navigate your way through millions of websites to find that one article you're looking for. You're going to want to go to a website that has just like, you already know you're going to search for something and something related to you is going to pop up right away. It helps you narrow down your searches and there's like less clutter you have to go through. For the assignment, what we'll do is do CINAHL Complete, and this database, it stands for Cumulative Index for Nursing and Allied Health. And the description, it says it provides scholarly, professional journal articles, evidence-based care sheets, quick lessons, test prep from 1937 to present. That's just to give you a little bit of insight into the databases. Like PubMed, it'll show you like it's a little bit different. Here they're talking about like citations for biomedical literature. Maybe that's not necessary. That's a bit different than nursing and allied health types of resources. That might be a bit more on the science side, while this will be much more nursing focused and like healthcare industry focused. So I'm going to click on that. That brings us to the login page. You should all see that when you do it on your own too. This just means I haven't logged in today yet. All these databases, they're behind password walls. And what I was talking about the public internet before is that this is part of the gated internet. These are websites that you usually have to pay for and you need passwords to sort of get into them. Since you're a LaGuardia student, you get access to all this through the email and you just need the My LaGuardia login, the usual one, to get in. If you have any problems logging into it, feel free to let us know and we'll try to sort that out too. So after that brings you to this website here. The database is sponsored by EBSCOhost. So sometimes people might call it an EBSCO database, but the title of the database is this one, the CINAHL Complete. And what we'll do is start off with a search. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a very broad search. I'm going to search cultural competence just to show you like what that looks like. And then you get, I'll point out the search results, and you'll see how the articles selection sort of comes down from there. So I just did a very basic search. I searched cultural competence. You see that the search results here, it gives you almost 12,000 articles. That's a lot to go through. If you look at them really quickly, you'll see that each item like starts off with a blue title. They're talking about something happening in Sweden, teaching how it works in the staff side of things, promotion of cultural competence in a project. Some of these might relate to your field, some of them might not. And this is where we will sort of start using the advanced search just to narrow that down into a search that might be more useful to you. So to get to advanced search, so like maybe if you're looking for something for nursing specifically, you can, if you really wanted to, just scroll down and then try to find an article for that in there for you. But what's easier to do is just to type in the word nursing and do another search for that. So we'll do nurse, oh, let me go back. So what I did was that I'm going to advanced search here now. This lets you break down your search into different sections. And it's always going to be underneath the search bar. And it lets you sort of refine your search. So what I'm going to do is search cultural competence. I'm going to use this thing and over here. I'll go over that in a second. And nursing. So cultural competence and nursing. Clicked on search. And with that already, you'll see that the different articles, instead of having to go through 11,000 articles, now it's a little bit above 3,000 articles. That means there's a lot less things you have to go through, and the likelihood of you just sort of clicking on something and it relating to your topic is going to be a lot higher also. What I'm doing here is this thing called Boolean search. Here's a diagram for it, and it basically focuses around Boolean operators. It's very simple. It just uses the words and, or, and not, and it's just a way to do searches. If you do and, you'd sort of be doing a search, instead of puppy and kitten, we're doing cultural competence and nursing. And it's only going to give you the articles that match both sides of both terms of your searches. If you do something like or, it'll include everything in the things you typed. And if you do not, it'll exclude the thing that you're doing not of. And is the one most people use. I've rarely used anything except for and. Or do you want to use in times when it's like a topic that's described in multiple ways? If you think about like New York City, that's a good one to like do an or of, and it's actually automatically in the database when you start typing in New York. So if you start typing in New York, you'll see that they give you an option for this. They have New York City, or New York, or NYC. Those are just like three terms that describe the same thing. Even like with us, since we're in New York, we might call, when we're thinking New York City, we might really mean Manhattan. So you might want to like switch to Manhattan. People from upstate New York, when they say New York City, they might mean all 5 boroughs. So like words like that are something to keep in mind when you're doing searches and not getting what you're looking for. That's just to use an example. We're not going to do that for this session, but just to show you what that or thing does. Not is really good if you are getting a lot of topics. Say if anytime with this search here, anytime you search puppy, you're still getting a lot of articles that were about both kittens and puppies. But you were just looking for articles that only talked about puppies and nothing else. That's when you sort of do that not in there. There might be certain medical procedures that you're looking up that are heavily like overwhelmed by a certain topic, and you're trying to exclude that topic from your search. That's when you'd want to use not. So I'm going to finish the search. I'm going to use the search topic of cultural competency, nursing, and language barriers. And then what we'll do is start evaluating search results. If you're doing this on your own or after the session, feel free to swap out any of the terms that I'm demonstrating and see what else you come up with, especially for the nursing part. And just to sort of see the different types of searches that you'll get or articles that you'll get. So for this, I have cultural competence, nursing, and language barriers. That's my search topic here. You'll see that the search results, now there are only 91 articles in there. If we did a search for Latino, you'll see here, the or becomes very important because it covers all the groups sometimes associated with that term. And if you do a search for, say, if you want to look at specifically Latinx population, that'll give you, say, like 233 articles. So you can see by swapping out the part of cultural competence, like the keywords associated with cultural competence out, you'll get a variety of different results. Actually, I'll stick with these two. Do the searches. Before evaluating the searches, what I personally like to do is limit the search even more. You'll see on the left-hand side, we have a refine results section. And this is a lot like online shopping. You sort of check off some things that you want to make sure are showing up in your search. And that way, anything in your search, again, is just gonna be related to it. This is like, say, basically checking off, like you already did a search for black shoes. Now you're checking off the brand and the size that you want. Just so you know, when you click on something, that's going to be like what you're seeing. For your search, where you're going to, in medical fields especially, you're encouraged to, and I think for this assignment, you really need to look at the publication date. And in the health sciences, it's usually the last 5 years of articles are seen as the most relevant. You don't want research that's older than that because it gets out of date very quickly. And you don't want to be like, say, looking at the wrong procedure that changed, you know, a year ago when you're reading an article that was like 6 years ago. Or it might be some study about certain diets and they found like, oh yeah, 10 years ago, what was, I don't know, 10 years ago I'm sure there was different fad, but like there was a fad of diets, and now like in the last 2 years they found out those diets don't really work out well. So to do that, you can either slide the bar around, or you can also type it up in here. I'm going to go back to 2015 to refine the search. So by refining that search to the last 5 years, it reduced the search result number 2. And now you know that any article is going to be within the last 5 years of publication. There's also these other limit to like check mark boxes. There's the one for full text, you'll see that some articles, they say PDF full text, other ones might say HTML full text, and these other ones have Find It at CUNY. The Find It at CUNY buttons definitely use these articles, but sometimes when you click on these buttons, it doesn't actually bring you to the article, so just be aware of that. They will bring you first to this CUNY page, and it doesn't always look like this, but they'll either try to lead you to a full text of the article. You can request things via Interlibrary Loan when the library is open again. And then just some other options. They also have some suggested articles to look at too over here. If you click on the full text online link, they'll bring you to a different database altogether, usually to the journal page, and then to the article here. Sometimes this article, it's not free to the public and says that we don't have access to it. And they're asking you to buy the article. Never buy the article. If you really need the article, get in contact with one of the librarians and we'll try to request it for you. Otherwise, we will, during the semester, it'll be a bit tricky, but during normal times, we can just request these articles for you. We're able to share resources with other libraries that do have these articles. So that's usually what happens with the Find It at CUNY button. It brings you to an outside website, and sometimes they make you pay for the article. I like to avoid that by just clicking full text. And what that does is it just shows you articles you can read right away. In some of the other databases, they also offer another button around here that's called scholarly peer-reviewed articles, journal articles, or academic articles, academic scholarly peer-reviewed articles, some combination of that. That is more in the humanities databases. And when your professor asks for that type of article, it's a good idea to check that one off, and then you know you only have academic journal articles there. So that's sort of setting up your search. It's kind of a lot thrown at you. Watch this video again when you're to get posted later. Or if you need help later on, definitely come contact me, contact one of the other librarians. We're here to help you out with those things. But also remember that search isn't hard. It's just kind of throwing a bunch of words into the database that relate to your topic and then sorting out something that will help your assignment. So how does an article actually help your assignment? And this is for, I'll talk a little bit more towards the annotated bibliography that you have to do. When you click on these articles, they bring you to a page like this. They give you the big title here. They list off the authors, and then they list off the affiliations. These are good things to look at because the authors, if you click on them, they usually bring up other articles that person wrote, and then you can see if they write about the same thing fairly often. Here it looks like it's just the same exact article. Let's see if someone else wrote more. Yeah, so this person, they wrote a lot more articles. And if you see that they're writing all in the same field, that they're probably a professional in that field and they're knowledgeable about that topic. You also want to look at where they work, because here this will tell you, especially for the health sciences, if they're working in a hospital or if they're working in a university or like a research center or like a government agency, those types of things. Here it looks like it's mostly universities. And that's something you really want to pay attention to because it gives you sort of a background on like what they're going to be talking about. Most of the time, it's never going to be a problem where they're working from. But if you see that they're working for some research agency and it's sort of seen like as a, maybe they're saying something controversial like smoking cigarettes is good for you. You might want to like, well, stop to take a second, think about what they're talking about in the article, because like, oh, that's weird, that should raise a red flag. Who are they working for? Why did they write an article like that? And if you look at some of these, you can also just do a Google search on these places too. You might find out that that research company is really sponsored by the tobacco industry or something. And that's going to lead to bias in some searches or in the articles. This also tells you like, if they wrote an article and have their affiliation in a university, they've done research on their own. They're also a professor. So that's usually a pretty good background. They also give you the source of the article. This is the journal it was from. And they have some subjects here. Sometimes they'll be called major subjects, minor subjects, or just subjects. But these are different keywords you can add to your own search. Maybe you are looking at just a different way to describe something. Like here, they, instead of doing this whole long search bar, they have a topic specifically just labeled Hispanics dash United States. So if you copied and pasted this into your search bar, you might get a slightly different set of search results. Or maybe they describe something a bit more different like health services accessibility, that might be more of interest to you in your own research. All right, so also what this article, I have to find an article that has this. What's really important to look at, and usually every article has it, the first two didn't, is this abstract here. We all have to read a lot for like work, class, who knows what. These abstracts, they're written specifically to save you time. They summarize the entire article and just into one paragraph, and they'll just tell you this is what this article is about. This article is actually a pretty short one. It's only 6 pages long. You can find that in the source section. But some of these articles, you know, they're 15 pages long. This abstract will save you time, so you don't have to open it and start reading it to decide if it's actually related to you or not. Basically, if you read this abstract, you can either decide right then and there if you actually want to open this article or not. And they'll also highlight the keywords you searched. Here you have nursing, nursing, nursing. Just to highlight like where your search terms are popping up on this item. So that's like the first step to evaluating an article. The next one is to actually look at the article itself. I didn't look at the author. Oh, well, they always have this in the article too. But here they have the article. This person is a PhD. I don't know what this means, but I'm sure you can look it up and it'll give you a description of what the acronym stands for. And they're working at University of Miami. That's a pretty big university. That's a good sign. It's a university that is going to work a lot with immigrant Latino families also, which means that they already know what they're talking about. And they have firsthand experience on this. They're not just reading about it. They also start you off with an abstract. And then they give you the rest of this paper. There's also a shortcut for reading these types of papers. And that's really just to read. And all these papers, they're set up basically exactly the same. They start off with an introduction. Then they have this methods section. Sometimes it's called something a little bit differently. Then they have a results. And usually further down they have a discussion section also, and a conclusion. The important parts to read for these articles are always the introduction, because that'll center you on what they're talking about in this article. They will also have citations of their own in these articles. And think of that, like this one's out of date, but think of that as like the author saying, I'm reading this person, so maybe you should too, and just suggestions of other articles that you want to read. Because they already did the research, they're already specialists in the field. So I've taken these types of suggestions before, like cited other people's citations. It's just a good research like practice, because they did all the hard work and now you can like help use that work that they did. The methods section, unless you're really interested in it, it's always fine to skip it. Same even with the results, because they're just going to give you like the statistical results for it. But the parts you really want to read are the discussion sections and the conclusion sections. That'll just have them explain to you what those results were, why those results are important, and what that means for the field you're working in. So for like this article specifically, it makes a 6-page article only, looks like what, maybe 1-2 pages to read. So don't be intimidated by some of these longer articles. Just remember, like, I only really need to read the first section and the back section to get an understanding of what this article is. And then if I really like it, you can read the middle part. Following that, they also have the citations for the people they cited. So you can sort of double check their research, see like who they used and if they used good sources for their things. And then actually in this, sometimes they have, I guess, these author notes also, and it's short paragraphs, like bios about each author in this article. Or maybe just one of the authors, it's kind of hard to tell. And all this information is things you can include in your abstract annotated bibliographies, because those are like ways to like just check, like without even really reading the article, like it's going to be a pretty good, you can decide ahead of time if it's going to be a reputable article or not based off of the authors and just the format of the paper. Does anyone have any questions about that right now? Feel free to chime in. Otherwise, I'll sort of shift over to citations and how to cite your article.
If you have any questions, please ask them. Either you can unmute yourself or you can express that in the chat as well. If you're good, you can reply yeah or a thumbs up.
Yeah. Yeah, just, and if your questions later on, feel free to reach out also. I know it's in a group setting, sometimes we don't want to, but I've done a lot of these sessions, so sometimes forget what some people have questions for, and there's always new questions each time.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, so I'll switch over to looking at citations. So for basically every class at LaGuardia and every college, they always talk about citations a lot. And nowadays it's a lot easier than it used to be, but that just means professors will probably be more strict about it. But for all these articles and in these databases, you'll see this toolbar. Here it's on the right side. Sometimes they put it up on top. Sometimes it's on the left side. But they're just options on what to do with this article. You could send it to Google Drive, you could print it out, You could email it to yourself, which is helpful if you're like on campus and you were trying to email stuff to yourself to look at later. But they also have this Cite button. Also that save, that's for if you create an account with EBSCO, just to like manage your own like bookmarks and things. But for the citation, they all have this cite tool. Sometimes they give like little quote marks for that one instead. And for this class, you'll be using the APA citation. This one, so with these, and if you scroll down, maybe you've used MLA before, that's for other classes, but for this one, you'll see that you need to use APA. What these auto-generated citations are good for is that when you put it in, you'll know that the authors are going to be in the right space. This should be like the first name, last name, things like that should be in the right spots. We'll have to double check that in a second. Put the date in the right spot. Title's there. Journal title is there and italicized. That's good news. And they have the other stuff here too. What you should always double check for these is things like capitalization and names. Here, it might look fine right now, but I can tell you right away that this citation's wrong if you're going to be like really strict about it. So if you just copy and paste this into your paper, it's obviously your professor's going to realize that you just copy and pasted it without checking it. We do have citation guides on the library website. And in that handout, let me just scroll through the handout. In this handout, it goes over the steps I did before in a slightly different order. And they also give you an example citation. And do we give, these are other examples for what to do. I'll cover a different section in a bit. But we do have information about citing your article and a link to this citation page here. So if you go to the library website, we have the citation help part and APA guide. If professors ask you for the 7th edition, that's fine. You can still use the 6th edition. Not a lot changed. They changed editions last year, and we haven't been able to catch up yet to make these guides. But over here, we have just different examples for it. We'll be looking at articles because this is a journal article. And it's just different examples for it. What APA needs for these titles is for everything, almost everything, to be lowercase. If we, if you look at the citation in the example here, you'll see that facilitator is capitalized, sensitive research studies, that's all capitalized. That's not, you need to change those capitalizations to be lowercase. What you do need to keep capitalized is the first word of the sentence and any proper nouns. So like Latino, I think would be good to keep capitalized. If it was someone's name, if it was a country, those are things you keep capitalized. If you look at this example here, if you have any colons, like those 2 dots over each other, that's also when you capitalize the next word in the sentence. It's just one of those rules. I don't know why they do that. That's just what they do. So just make sure just to double check it for your own citations. You also see that the names are a bit different than what is in that citation. Here you see that they start off with the person's last name and then they do the first initial. Here what they did is that for the person's the first person's name, they didn't do anything with the name. So you need to type in Matsuda, comma, Y, period, and just to change that. I don't know why they mixed that up, but these databases aren't perfect, so you should always double check those citations. If you need citation help, like, gonna sound a little like broken record, but like, come to the library, ask us on chat or send me an email, and we'll help you out with the citations as best we can. Do that too. Even if you want us to check them, like for this class, other classes, if you just want us to check the citations to make sure they're right or what you have wrong, definitely reach out. That's what we do. And we'll be sending out emails later on about extended hours that we'll be doing for citation help for people's papers and things. And it's not just the references section, it's also in-text citation we'll go over a little bit. Yeah, that kind of covers it all. Let me just double check. Oh, if you are, this part over here, search number 3, where it says choose databases. If you are a vet tech or a radiology student, the database we're using isn't the greatest for those two fields. So you're gonna want to follow the instructions here to check off different databases to add into your search. These ones usually will end up like covering the field that you're looking for. If you can't find it, either send us a message. We know that's sort of a problem, and we'll help you out with that. So when I was talking about like the subjects thing and how we broke out the different databases into different subjects, you can also choose to add in those databases into the platform you're using to search like 2 or 3 or more databases at the same time. So it gives you control over that also. That's like a advanced one that I barely use except for this class even. Yeah, so that kind of covers it all for the library search and things to look out for your annotated bibliographies. And if you have questions, you can ask them now or get in touch with us a little later. Yeah. If there's anything I might have gone over too quickly or you want repeated, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, I'll hand it back to Lakshmi.
Thank you, Thomas. I'm just gonna pause